Oh, we're live?
Welcome back to the Lost Ledgers. We have returned from last week doing our Witch subclass to talk this week about elementals that we've made. I am joined, Shawn, here by Justin, Adam, and Zach. What's up, guys?
Howdy.
You got just Adam
God
is
damn
me and Adam.
I forgot about the... There we go.
Adam, I just want to be you, Adam. That's all I want. It's fucking just kidding, man.
That's what they all want, man. That's
Now
what
the
they
names
all
are
want.
all messed up. It's a whole thing.
It's a
Why is
whole
Zach-
goddamn
Why is
thing.
Zach also Adam?
Because I was just Adam, dude.
The fuck?
Me and Adam
Why?
were just conjoined for a second.
So strange. Anyway, let me go ahead and edit that. How you guys doing? What's going on?
Good.
We had a fun time at UMaCon this weekend.
We did.
I didn't. I wasn't there.
Speak to
Yeah,
yourselves.
Adam had the most
Yeah.
fun.
He did, probably.
I was in the
He
mountains. I had no cell phone
Celebrated
signal.
Halloween.
What?
He celebrated Halloween.
I mean, not really. No. I was out of town for Halloween, so
You were in the Spooky Mountains. That's Halloween celebrating
the spooky mountains.
with no cell phone signal.
Yeah, it was great. My boss
That's
couldn't
super fucking
contact me,
spooky.
no matter how much he wanted to.
That's always the greatest.
Well,
Anyways,
I mean,
it looks like we've got a Phoenix to review.
yeah, so we all came here with some elemental monsters. I think I'm probably the only one who decided to do existing monsters because personally I think the Phoenix in the book is kind of boring and I love Phoenixes, so I decided to give my hand at that. So I've actually made two Phoenixes. So I'm ready to just kind of jump into this if you guys are.
Yeah,
We
fuck
actually
yeah,
do a
man.
few
Yeah.
to review. All right. So, starting off here, we have the young Phoenix. There's only one Phoenix in the book, and it's a giant fucking thing bent on destruction, which is a problem I have with the Phoenix in D&D that I'll get into in a moment. This is the young Phoenix. This is meant to be the Phoenix closer to how I picture it, as this sort of like almost angelic elemental, not necessarily full-on neutral elemental. It's still neutral, but there's a couple of key differences that I've made on this Phoenix compared to the one that's in the book. So, first of all, this is a large creature as opposed to a gargantuan creature. It's a younger Phoenix. It's not meant to be this giant cataclysmic monster. It's got a lower AC. It's got less hit points. It's slower. It's got lower stats. The most notable thing here, though, is that its intelligence is higher than the one in the book. The one in the book has an intelligence of 2, which I think is ridiculous for my picture of a Phoenix. I gave it a proficiency in perception just because I thought it was appropriate. I gave it resistance to cold. It didn't already have that, which I thought it totally should. I get why you wouldn't, but I kind of feel like being the embodiment of flame should give you some sort of resistance to cold. Everything else here is pretty much the same. I gave it a blind sight. Essentially, my idea of that is that it can use the heat around it to sense creatures. I really wanted to focus on the Phoenix's ability to manipulate flame and heat. It's got the fiery death, though the explosion in its death is weaker. It's still got flyby. It's still got illumination. And its attacks are weaker. But I made it make 3 attacks, whereas the one in the book can only make 2 attacks. Again, something I think is weird. This is all pretty straightforward. This is really just meant to be a smaller, weaker version of the existing Phoenix, but also smarter and knows languages, because the one in the book does not know languages, which I also found really annoying.
Yeah.
Again,
Well, and the one in the book, it's presented as like a set of 4 elementals that are all sort of like walking cataclysms,
yes.
which just does not jive with at least my conception of the Phoenix. Like, that's not really what the Phoenix is. The Phoenix is not a walking wildfire. Like,
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Like, you think of phoenixes as depicted in fiction, they're usually like these kind of majestic creatures. Like, you got the one in fucking Harry Potter, which is literally just like a house pet for Dumbledore, which is cool. You've got the Phoenix in I don't know if anybody who's watching watches Dimension 20, but there is notes of a phoenix in that, though that one's a little bit more comedic.
Yeah.
My picture of a phoenix comes from Heroes of Might and Magic, actually. That's where my picture of a lot of mythological creatures come from. And that definitely is not just like this hell-bent force of destruction and Armageddon. Hello, friend. So this is more on par with my idea of Phoenix. What I've decided to do here was make two different kinds of Phoenix. This is the young form of the Phoenix as I see it, not the young form of the Phoenix in the book. And what I did is I took the Phoenix in the book and I took it to its extreme, what the book is supposed to be, but making it more interesting. And that's what this next monster is. This next monster is called the Cataclysm Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
This is directly related to the one in the book. This is meant to be what the one in the book is meant to be. And I wanted to be more interesting because the one in the book doesn't have really any fire manipulation abilities. It only pecks and claws with its talons, which I find really stupid, personally. So I added a lot of fire stuff to this. So, going down here, I gave it a little bit more health. I gave it the perception skill. I give it the resistance to cold. I still let it be stupid and not know any languages. So that's basically all the changes there. But I made it quite a bit stronger. The book one is CR 16. I made this CR 21. I want this to be like the thing, the big bad's trying to summon and destroy everything. So I want it to be an appropriate threat for a like tier 3 party. So the first addition I made was an ability called Ember Feathers. When the Phoenix moves on a turn, it burns everything 120 feet directly below the path of its movement. All creatures in the affected area must succeed a DC 21 dexterity saving throw or be ignited. Flammable objects that aren't worn or carried are automatically ignited. Until a creature takes an action to douse the fire, ignited targets take 1d10 fire damage at the start of each turns. So basically this is the hell fire, like you fly over the forest and it just burns below you type thing. It's like it's dropping its inferno feathers below it and raising everything to ash. And that's what I want to emulate with this. It also gives it a very interesting way of being offensive by just moving around. You really want to try and pin this thing down if you can, which is hard to do because it's immune to almost everything that would affect its movement. It's immune to grapple, paralyzed, stun, and restrained. The only way you could really like stop this is by knocking it unconscious, reducing its movement with some other effect like Ray of Frost, or some other effect that makes its movement 0 without referencing one of those conditions.
Right.
Not a lot of ways you can stop this, which is true for pretty much every fire elemental. But I wanted to really throw in the threat of that movement, like why it not being able to be stopped is a problem. The fire, death, and rebirth is pretty much exactly the same. Fire form is the same. Flyby is the same. I added Inferno. At the start of each of the Phoenix's turns, each creature and object within 15 feet of the creature takes 1d10 fire damage. So just being close to this thing burns you. That's pretty much ripped straight from like 4E monster design, the ancient red dragon and all that, having that kind of aura around them. I wanted this thing to be a threat just to be standing next to as well. And the final feature I added, not action, is Starbright, which is actually a change to the illumination feature. Basically, the theory or the theme of this is that it's so bright that staring at it fucks you up. The Phoenix sheds bright light to 120 foot radius and dim light for an additional 120 feet. Creatures which attack the Phoenix on a turn become blinded until the start of their next turn. A creature can avert its eyes for an attack to avoid the blindness. Doing so imposes disadvantage on the attack. So your choice is I could get one attack on it without disadvantage, but if I do, any additional attacks will be at disadvantage, but attacks against me will also be at advantage until the start of my next turn. Or you take disadvantage on your attacks and you don't take the blindness condition. Now, obviously, if you have something like blind sight or some way of overcoming blindnesses, isn't nearly as much of a problem. But that is a choice you have to make in each of your turns if you're an attacking character. So that's the Phoenix's main way next to the Inferno to really affect weapon users as opposed to spellcasters. Now, to the actions. Multi-attack. Like I said, the Phoenix of the book only gets 2 attacks. I gave this one 3 attacks. It can make 1 beak attack and 2 talon attacks, as opposed to 1 of each. And I also gave it the ability to use an action that I gave it called True Flame. This is an idea I've crowed for my own campaign where each element has a true form. And creatures that can access the ability of these true elements supersede normal elemental resistances and immunities. So, True Flame. Until the end of the Phoenix's next turn, the Phoenix's attacks ignore resistance to fire damage and deal half of the damage to targets immune to fire damage. The normal way of phrasing that is saying ignores resistance and treats immunity as resistance, but technically the way that's phrased means that you would just ignore resistance and immunity, because if you turn the immunity into resistance and you ignore resistance, technically you just supersede the immunity. So I wanted to try different phrasing for this. I think the normal phrasing might be fine just because most people understand what that's supposed to mean, but by technicality, it does mean that you just ignore all resistance and immunities. So I tried this phrasing instead. And then the final thing that I gave it, the final new thing I gave it was called Arcane Flame Absorption. The Phoenix consumes all magic and heat within 30 feet of it. Each creature in the area must succeed a DC 21 Constitution saving throw or take 44 cold damage, 8d10, on a failed save or half as much on success. The Phoenix regains hit points equal to the number rolled, and any open flames in the area are extinguished, and any spell effect in the area ends. It's able to just undo all magic or all spells within 30 feet of it as part of this action. And those are all the action, and that's its main way of affecting spellcasters. Because I wanted to have something against spellcasters and weapon users. And that's it. That's the entire Cataclysm Phoenix, which is definitely the bigger talking point than the young one.
So it doesn't have legendary actions?
It does, but it's just the same ones from the book.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's just I couldn't see the legendary actions.
Sorry, I had to
before
scroll
you
down a little
scrolled
bit.
down. So,
Swoop's different, isn't it? Oh wait, no.
No, Swoop's the same.
I would like to start.
Swoop's the same.
I would like to start this off by not knowing how upset I should have been at Wizards of the Coast for shitting on the Phoenix so hard.
Oh, dude, they
Yeah.
really fucked up with the Phoenix. Honestly, I think all 4 of the Elder Elementals kind of suck, but the Phoenix definitely got it.
What are the other 3?
The other 3 are the Living Tempest, the Zaratan, which, oh my god, they did my boy the Zaratan so bad. And then the Leviathan for water. I think they did all 4 of the Elder Elementals a real disservice in Tome of Foes.
Okay, that's where they're at, because I didn't know where they were at. I thought I knew.
Yeah, I had to Google it.
I thought the Phoenix was in the Monster Manual.
You would think it would be.
It's not.
That's surprising.
Yeah,
that
that's
it's
the
not.
thing.
No,
It's a pretty popular fantasy creature to just not appear in the Monster Manual at all.
Yeah.
No, I totally understand Shawn's inclination to give the Phoenix a little bit of love here, because first of all, like, the other 3 elementals are like in the like CR 21 range, and the Phoenix gets 16.
Yeah.
It is such a real bad diss. I think you did a great job of making it more interesting and more powerful without just making it like a sack of hit points and damage.
That's what I didn't want to do.
I will say, I think that your old wording for the like true element stuff is probably fine. Ignoring resistance and treating immunity as resistance. My reading of that leads me to think that it's fine is that you ignore resistance and then you treat immunity as resistance, but you don't just keep looping those. You only apply that statement once. I understand why you were looking for other wording, because it does feel slightly off, but I think that your original wording feels better to me than this wording. That the original wording reads a little better to me.
Yeah, I wanted to throw this wording out there just because I wanted to play around with it a little bit. But yeah, I agree. The other wording is a lot more succinct, and it's a lot more founded in the actual game verbiage than this one is, and it's a little bit less wordy.
Yeah, well, and I think that it goes a long way towards it condenses the idea in words that are already being used to describe how damage should be treated. So it's like, okay, yeah, basically you just downgrade every level of resistance. Immunity to resistance, resistance to nothing. But
I have, this is more of, I'm not sure if you just like missed it or not.
Oh.
It has a proficiency bonus of 6. Wisdom is plus wisdom save is a plus 10 when it should be 11.
Oh yeah.
Charisma
No, I
would
just
be a
missed
10.
that. I was tuning in on its CR. It was
Right.
originally a CR of 19 before I added a couple of new things. So those are from when it was below that. So yeah, it should be wisdom 11, charisma 10.
okay.
And then I guess where's the plus 8 coming from for its damage? Like for its like beak, it's 2d6 plus 8.
Shit, that also has to go up then. Oh no, I'm sorry. I decreased its dexterity from 26 to 25, and I forgot to update those two.
Okay, so those need to go down by 1.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, but you did update the to hits. It's just the damages that are wrong.
Yeah. Well, the 2 hits are what they were. I just did I adjusted the dexterity to keep the 2 hits where they were, but I didn't adjust the dexterity bonus to the damage.
I see. Okay.
Because I didn't want to increase its 2 hit. I think 13's fine for a CR21.
Yeah.
I kind of was under the impression that in terms of like the fire form and inferno and stuff like that, unless those things stack, well, I guess the inferno would stack, but like if something is caught on fire from the ember feathers, would they then? They would also take the extra damage from the fire form. So
I'll be honest, I did not see fire form the entire time I was working on this until the very end. So I added Inferno because I didn't know it already had an effect like that. So I'm gonna edit this so that the Inferno is included in some way within the fire form.
Okay, you're just gonna like edit fiery form to have like a wider range.
Yeah, because I completely somehow missed that.
Were you mostly just looking at like the ability to squeeze through spaces in fire form, or?
Yeah, I saw you can move through spaces and you can walk through people's spaces and stuff, and that's all I saw. But I forgot that it also affects if you hit it with the melee attack and stuff.
So for Starbright, my question was, do you want the blindness to affect somebody who is outside of the light radius but attacking the Phoenix?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then I have no qualms about that. I just wanted to make sure that it's like, okay, if somebody is like 300 feet away and using either sharpshooter or like an Eldritch Spear, Eldritch Blast, like, do you still want them to be blinded?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
It's just there's no way of like wording if you look directly at this for 6 seconds you'll be blinded. So I had to just choose attack.
Right.
But the idea is that it's like looking directly at a star or like the sun.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting. So I figured that you meant to include people who were outside of the light and attacking it, but I wanted to ask and double check because for some features like that, it might say like creatures in the light that attack the Phoenix are blinded until their next turn or whatever.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand.
Zach has something.
Yeah, sorry.
So I had one thing with Starbright. First of all, I had an idea for a one shot. Can I use this in it just to test it out?
Hell yeah.
Because I love these. But my thing with Starbright is that just doing it to have it start at the start of their next turn seems like it could get a little bit finicky and wonky with like keeping track of.
What do you mean?
How many things do at the start of the next turn?
Most of the
a fair number of effects.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just felt like
the thing
because
it
feels similar to turning into stone, kind of. But
well, this is you attack it the first time on a turn, and then you're just blinded from that point forward until the start of your next turn. So it's supposed to just affect you until it's your turn again. That way, stuff like creatures moving out of your range or creatures attacking you have advantage. Like there are effects that will affect you.
I misread it.
Oh, okay.
I thought it said you became blinded at the start of your next turn.
Oh no. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that delayed trigger would be
from,
super weird.
Yeah, from the attack until the start of your next turn.
Man,
Okay.
this really fucks up martial classes because
It
like
does. It does.
a tier 3 fighter, like do they say, okay, do I just have one regular attack and then disadvantage on all of the rest of my attacks for the rest of this turn, or do I just sacrifice?
I mean, honestly, I think that you usually should take the disadvantage on all of the attacks so that you
Yeah.
don't have advantage incoming.
Yeah. Unless
Yeah,
you're a barbarian, in which case go all out because you will have you can reckless, which you're probably gonna do anyway, and then you're not really giving anybody else a bonus against you
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
the thing.
because
yeah.
they
So
already
that
have
you-
advantage because you reckless.
Yeah, so
Well-
you reckless for advantage on the first attack and then straight rolls on the rest.
Well, rogues are never gonna get their sneak attack in this.
Well,
No, they
I
get
mean,
the sneak attack on the first attack. The first attack's not disadvantage.
That's true, yeah.
that's the thing. The rogue is probably going to take the blindness so that they can get sneak attack off.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, you still get one straight attack if you don't care about the blindness. It's just that you have that disadvantage. You just have those negative conditions till start your next turn.
Would it? I don't think that the feature as it reads right now is too punishing. But if on playtesting it is too punishing, it could maybe go down to creatures that hit the Phoenix with an attack on their turn
I can
or
see
on
that.
a turn. That way, like, okay, well, you got straight rolls until you hit it.
Yeah.
Like,
I could see that. Like, I could also see that as a flavor thing. Like, you missed it because you weren't able to focus on it because it was so bright.
right, yeah, and
then
so
when
it doesn't.
When you actually were able to, you were looking at it for too long, and now you're blinded.
Right,
Mhm.
yeah. And that would
I could
make
see
it a
that.
little bit less punishing for rogues in particular, since they don't get extra attack. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, you probably want to just take the straight roll, but if you miss, then you don't get the penalty. So
Yeah. I had
I-
considered that possibility. I also considered making it a con save, but that just felt like it'd be too many saves. I
that's
felt
the
like
thing. It would be everybody making a save every turn.
Yeah.
Or maybe not everybody, but a lot of people making a save every turn.
Yeah, and all the
and
marshals
especially
making
since-
multiple saves, and
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely see why you didn't want it to be a con save. Well, especially since people are going to be making a ton of saves anyways from Ember Feathers.
yeah, because it can move quite a bit because it has that legendary action. It has 2 legendary actions to let it move.
Yeah, well, and it's got 120 foot speed to begin with.
Yeah. Though to be fair with Ember Flames, once you fail that, you can't you don't have to make any saves at that point. You're already ignited, so it doesn't matter.
Guy Dawn brings up a good point that True Flame does feel like a mythic trait, which are very rare.
I
I
considered making it a mythic creature. If I made this a mythic creature, I'd want to make mythic versions of the rest of them, as well. And
So what's stopping you?
I also
Time constraints.
time constraints because I did make this before the podcast today. So I could see myself making this into a mythic creature. That'd be fun. But I've done mythic before.
I think that as a mythic trait, it would be really cool. I think that it might not feel as good as a legendary action, just because when you're not giving up, 2 attacks for it, you're much more likely for the Phoenix to just use True Flame on every turn.
That is precisely why I did not make a legendary action, because I was thinking of like characters like a Forge Cleric. The reason I made it the way it is because this way is kind of a compromise. If I gave the Phoenix a way to just ignore fire resistance, the Forge Cleric going into a Phoenix fight is going to think, fire, I am made for this. And then gets fucked. It's like, what's the point then if it's not even good against a Phoenix? If I made a legendary action, it would have been effectively just giving it always True Flame, because there's not really a scenario where it wouldn't be worth it if you're only sacrificing 1 legendary action. This way, he's sacrificing 2 attacks so that 4 attacks can do it, and then he'll have to do it again a turn after that if the Phoenix will have to do a loop. So the DM will have to decide, is it better for me to focus 2 extra attacks or to be able to focus someone who's resistant and or immune for less attacks?
Right, yeah.
There's
I
actually
think
a
that-
decision to be made.
I think that at the level of the story that the Phoenix is trying to tell, it might make more sense for True Flame to be like a legendary action or a mythic trait. But on the level of mechanically making this fight feel good for players who have either resistance or immunity to fire damage, it would just really, really suck as an experience. But I definitely think that it's worth considering. I don't think that it's completely out of the question, but I think it would require being very careful with how much fire damage it's dealing and how you activate that trait.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the main concern I had. If you just give like legendary monsters these like true flame abilities, period, it can really be just a fuck you to the players. Who have
that's
those features and like are looking forward to them being useful. Because to be honest, resistance doesn't come up that often. And when you're in situations like the Phoenix or like a Red Dragon, as a player, you know that it's gonna come up, and you're like finally excited for it to be like this big thing, and then it doesn't. You're like, well, fuck, whatever.
Right, that's the thing. If you're playing like a Forge Cleric or a Red Dragonborn going into a Red Dragon fight, if you don't end up in the breath weapon at least once, you're gonna feel like you kind of got like cheated out of something, you know?
Absolutely.
But no, I think that these are both really great. The Cataclysm Phoenix does a great job of giving that walking disaster feel that I think that the Phoenix in Mordenkainen's kind of misses on, even though it also goes too far in that direction to really be the Phoenix that I envision from mythology. I like your young Phoenix a lot as that sort of Phoenix as envisioned from mythology. The like not a fireball tearing through the world, but just like a majestic Phoenix that like has the cycle of death and rebirth. I know that the like healing powers of Phoenixes is not like a universal thing, but I personally would love to see like healing abilities on a Phoenix. But I am a sucker for healing abilities, so I realize that that's not everybody's cup of tea.
Well, this like I said, this is the young Phoenix. This is supposed to be essentially the Phoenix as it comes out of the egg, or maybe shortly after. And I actually do want to do a higher level Phoenix that would have more of that, like more of a support role than just like a bird.
Oh yeah, no. I think that these are both awesome, and I like seeing the divergence from like, okay, well, we've got this Phoenix that I don't like. Here's two different ways of fixing it.
Yeah, that exactly what I wanted to do. Was like I wanted these two different kinds of Phoenixes. If Wizards wants it this way, I think there's a better way of doing it. But this is the way I want it, and I'm going to show them like this is doable.
Yeah,
I'm a bit curious as to why kind of like fire form and inferno, like those things. I'm kind of curious as to why that doesn't do like more fire damage as is.
I mean, I think that's mostly just because for fire form, players are going to be proccing that all the time. That procs on every attack. And for inferno, that's a free no save damage for anyone in range.
You don't want those.
It's low low damage because it is essentially free. It's low damage because you can be expected to get 3 or 4 D10 per turn off of each of those.
Yeah.
So like that adds a lot to your damage per turn.
Plus, if you have that and Ember Feathers on you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. Like this thing has tons of passive damage, which is why its attacks deal so little. 2d6 and 2d8 for a CR21 monster is pretty freaking low, but it's dealing so much passive damage just from you getting near it, and it's also blinding you for trying to attack it from any distance. This is not a wrecking ball as much as it is a gauntlet. Like you are enduring the Phoenix, not really like taking hits from it, you know? Yes, we know how much you love endurance.
I was gonna say I don't remember what I was gonna say because I was gonna comment also that it can heal because of its arcane flame absorption.
Oh, that's another thing I wanted to comment on. I love elementals doing off-type damage. So the Phoenix doing cold damage by like absorbing heat from them. I love really that. Cool. I think that's so great.
That's fucking sick.
All right. I am ready. We've spent quite a bit of time on these Phoenixes. You guys ready to move on here?
I'm ready,
Maybe don't make such big Phoenixes.
It's mostly just the Phoenix in the book. I just added a few features, but next we have Zax, who actually wanted to go first. So I gave him. Well, I didn't mean to do this, but he's second. Why don't you go ahead and walk us through your time elemental?
Yeah, my entire goal was to make this as hard as possible for Shawn.
Cool.
So, these beings are distortions of reality found in the outskirts of creation. It's typically difficult to discern what you're actually being assailed by, since these beings take the shape of something you once knew or will know, and are constantly changing. Time's not an easy thing to comprehend, and these are no exception. Time elemental is a medium elemental, chaotic neutral, armor class 15, hit points 90. I don't have the numbers for why. I totally forgot to change the speed on it.
I was going to say, it can't walk. It can only swim or hover.
I ripped this from something else. So it would just be probably 30 flying or 60 flying, 30 walking. Strength 4, dexterity 17, con 16, intelligence 20, wisdom 18, charisma 10. Skills I hadn't really decided on. Senses, I've got blind sight out to 120 feet, passive perception 16, language is primordial, challenge rating 7, that could be wrong. Condition immunities, prone, charmed, poisoned, grappled, restrained, exhaustion, unconscious, and paralyzed. Damage immunities, slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning, done by non-magical weapons. And damage immunities, if you guys thought it needed any, I wasn't sure.
Probably poison.
Yeah, most elementals are immune to poison, but not all. So
fair. And then its abilities it has are slowed reality. The first time a creature moves within 40 feet of the time elemental, they must make a wisdom saving throw, DC 15, or be under the effects of the slow spell. A warped distortion. Distorted and hard to make out. Any creature making an attack roll against the time elemental that is not within 40 feet of it, do so at disadvantage. And it can make 2 attacks on its turn. Both would just be reality blow, which is a 40-foot reach, 1 target attack that does psychic damage.
I like this. I will say I think it might be very similar to a creature that I submitted to the Kobold Press to put in one of their books, which is really funny to me.
Excuse me?
Hold on.
Not only is this creature hard for you to find pictures for because of the way that I've described it, but if you Google Time Elemental, it is a Magic the Gathering card, and that is all that comes up.
I was gonna say there is a Magic the Gathering card called Time Elemental that's got weird as shit art. So like,
you're an asshole, Zach. I'm just gonna say it for Shawn. I love this reality blow attack though. That's fucking sick.
The flavor on that is as the elemental creates an image of someone or something from your memory that is attacking.
That is interesting.
That's just flavor text for how it happens, basically.
Yeah, my initial reaction to that would be that it should be it's a reach of 40 feet. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So the time elemental is essentially the whole 40 feet around itself.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I guess it could be range of 40 feet. Unless this.
Well, range of 40 feet ensures that if something is right next to it, it doesn't have disadvantage attacking something 40 feet away from it.
Right, yeah.
It also makes it so that if they leave the 40-foot area, they get an attack opportunity.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that when I made it, but I like that. So.
Yeah, I like that it sort of creates a 40-foot barrier around itself where it's like, all right, if you're outside, you're at disadvantage. If you're inside, you're under the effects of the slow spell. And if you try to move between, you're subject to attacks.
This is a very interesting creature. I don't know if CR7 is right for it. I feel like that could be because
the CR. How much damage does the attack deal? I can't see the attack on screen.
2d8 plus 5 psychic,
and it makes 2 of those attacks.
Yes.
The offensive CR of this is going to be very, very low. This is going to be like CR3 or maybe 4 offensively, but the defensive CR of this thing, I think it's punching above its weight class defensively because of attacks from further than 40 feet are at disadvantage. Attacks from within 40 feet, you're under the effects of the slow spell, possibly. And it's got, an AC of 15 isn't great, but it's okay. Like, it's all right.
It's got some decent health, too.
Yeah, 90. The thing is, 90 hit points, that's also only looking at, like, CR3 or 4. I think this might just be like a CR4 or maybe 5 monster that is just an absolute bitch to fight. Like,
This is a really good
bitch.
support monster.
I think I don't think that it's actually like a particularly deadly monster. It's just really, really annoying. And I'm not sure if there's a CR adjustment for being a nuisance, you know? Like,
Yeah, I'd love to polish it off at 5. So like if changing the hit points or something was easy enough to doing that, I'd be cool with it.
also, it should probably have if it's actually going to be CR7, I think it would have a proficiency bonus of +3, not +2. But if we're lowering the CR, then the numbers all check out. So,
I absolutely love this as a support monster. Like this, just throwing this into any fight changes the dynamic completely.
God,
Like if you are fighting just this creature, it's annoying, but you're going to
Yeah.
beat this thing. Like it's just going to be kind of a
a
grind.
slog. Yeah.
But you throw this into a like semi-dangerous encounter, the entire dynamic changes, and it's just like
That's the thing.
you have to figure
Toss-
out
No, sorry. Go on.
you have to figure out, do we want to deal with this thing that is just fucking up the entire like battlefield for us, or do we want to take care of the other threats?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like putting 1 or 2 of these in what would otherwise only be like a medium or hard encounter, I think would rapidly crank the CR on the encounter up, which is, I think that's kind of a complicating factor for its challenge rating, because this thing as a solo monster is not a very high CR. But this thing with other anythings, really, with any other monster next to it, this becomes an absolute nightmare to fight.
Now I'm just imagining a time elemental and a hydra next to each other.
The one thing that I'll say about this monster, I like its design as far as like its mechanics and all that. Flavor wise, this does not strike me as a time elemental beyond the you can see creatures from your future thing. This strikes me more as a mind elemental. Because everything that's doing is very mind dependent, and it's even all of its attacks are stuff based on its intelligence versus like its charisma or its con.
Maybe like memory elemental.
Oh, memory elemental could also work. Just because like a time elemental, I would think of it physically warping like the time around it, which I know is kind of a touchdown with the warp distortion and kind of with slowed reality, but those could be easily reflavored as psychic, whereas reality blow comes off way more like a mind attack than it does like a reality distortion attack. Just from my perspective, I see where it's coming from as a time thing, but the flavor that I get from it is definitely more of a psychic thing than a time thing.
I'd be fine with it being a mind elemental. I had time. I originally was doing time, and I I just like looked up an elemental chart, and time was one of the things that was on it, and I was like, okay, I'll do that. But I've played around with time stuff in the past, and it's hard to like put things in there that actually have impact, like feeling impact when it's messing with time of characters.
Yeah.
So I kind of went with more of like what's already things that I could use, like the slow spell and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'd be fine with this being a mind elemental instead.
Mind.
The mind.
But that's my only thing. I like everything else about this, and I think with the disadvantage stuff, I think this might be around like a CR6, 7. So I think you're kind of on the money, and I think Adam is perfectly correct in that like, its defensive CR is definitely doing more of the work, as far as determining its CR, because the disadvantage stuff and the slow spell are definitely very good debuffs.
Yeah, I will say that I could make it this way, but if you put this next to another creature, that other creature doesn't ignore its effects like instantly.
True, yeah, that's the thing. The other creature would still be subject to slowed reality.
Yeah.
But I think that even if the other targets are under the effect of the slow spell, just having other creatures around while you're trying to deal with this would be a major nuisance.
Yeah, true.
So is this a repeated effect too? So like
This-
the first time that that a creature moved on its turn.
Yeah, I might
It
have
doesn't
worded
say
it
on its
poorly.
turn.
I might have worded it poorly, but it's basically while you're within the 40 feet of
Gotcha.
it, you would be under the slow spell if you don't pass. You would have to like leave and
How-
come back.
Would you have
often-
to?
Adam
I was going to
asked the
ask,
same
would
question
you-
I am.
Yeah. Would you have to repeat the save on your next turn, or would you be immune to the effect for an hour? Or like if you make the save, like would I have to make it again the next turn? Or
No, I would. You would be immune to it while you're in there. Then it's only like the first time that go through the barrier
okay,
of
so,
the 40
so
feet.
not immune for a full hour, but if you leave and come back, you'd have to make the save again.
Yeah.
If you leave and come back, you'll make the save again. Okay. So the best way to do that is just to say the first time you enter on a turn, and that would
Okay.
Yeah.
automatically cover that because you could because it doesn't have a time restriction. It doesn't say at the start of each of your turns. Just the first time you enter on a turn, it will always just be if you leave and come back, you'll be affected again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I rushed a lot of the writing with this one.
I mean,
That's
you're
no big deal.
close to the correct wording. Like it's, and I think we got pretty close to your intention too. So like,
Mhm.
and I don't really have fun nitpicking grammar and shit anymore. So that kind of got old after like 2 episodes. So
What kind of linguist are
It
you?
never gets old.
hey, linguistics as a science is about description, not prescription. I don't give a shit about like so-called rules. I give a shit about language as it is spoken and used.
Damn,
I'm a scientist, motherfucker, not a pedant.
I'm a scientist. God damn it!
Not a
Not a
pedophile.
miracle.
I mean,
Oh, okay. Well, and we're demonetized
we were monetized.
allegedly.
A whopping 15 cents of ad money.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say on this one. I like everything that it does.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like this is solid in all respects. Like I don't really have any major complaints about it. I feel like it should probably be proficient with perception. If you're like something this smart should definitely have a couple skill proficiencies. I'm thinking probably like perception and investigation maybe. But like skills don't really matter for most monsters, especially not most monsters that like aren't
It should have
like,
expertise
humanoid.
in history. Oh well, if we're gonna change it to a mind thing, then that's not.
Well,
really so
but
much.
if it's a memory elemental, I think expertise with history would still be appropriate.
True.
So yeah, expertise in history, proficiency in perception, and probably investigation too.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, and
oh
insight.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
I think definitely
Insight would be good,
insight, if
yeah.
it's a mind thing.
yeah, yeah,
Probably expertise with insight as well.
I'd probably give it if I had to choose one. I'd probably give it insight instead of history for expertise.
yeah. If I had to pick one, but I think either would be appropriate, and
Why-
also
why not
neither of them are likely to matter.
Yeah, why not both?
Yeah, not likely. Though it is chaotic neutral, there's no reason that you have to come to blows with this thing. It could just be.
That's the thing. It doesn't necessarily. It's not necessarily hostile.
Yeah, I imagine them as confused creatures, as I put in the flavor. I only found at the source of when things were
Ooh.
created.
Sure.
That's fine.
Well, and the thing is, this thing has intelligence 20. So unlike a lot of chaotic
Oh.
neutral things, like you could talk to this if
You
you
know
could
what'd be
speak
cool?
primordial.
is if like this thing when you come across it, it's always talking in primordial, but its voice and what it's saying is always someone's dreams that are currently happening or something.
Oh, that'd be wild.
So it's like it's always just repeating someone's dreams or like repeating the thoughts of the people around him or around it. So like you and your party roll up and you're the one person, probably the druid who knows primordial, and you hear like something very interesting about one of your party members. You're like, wait, was that? Did you say something? Wait, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Nobody learned Primordial next campaign. He's gonna throw like 3 of these at us.
Yeah, don't learn primordial because it's not a language. It's primordial.
I'd be stoked to see any of the things we've made in Sean's next campaign.
Oh man, I am.
If you
very
think I'm not
excited.
using every single monster we make on the podcast in my campaign,
Face,
Oh,
what?
dude, Honestly, I'm excited for us to make more subclasses so that I've got more character options for the Sean's next campaign.
I can't wait till he TPKs us with time elementals.
Hell
Just
yeah.
have to
Yeah.
face like 8 of these at once.
No, I
Level
fucking
3.
I get so much joy out of us doing player option stuff because I'm like, oh, I could use this.
Yeah.
That's
I think that's what makes the player option stuff a lot more engaging than some of the DM stuff. Like the monsters are cool, and so are the most
Like
of the
the
monsters
items.
are the most DM stuff, but like magical items are like half and half. It's like they're completely dependent on the DM, whereas the player options, hell yeah.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
player options, though.
All right, I'm willing to move on from this one. I think that we all pretty much agreed this one's pretty dope.
Yeah. That's the thing,
Hell
just
yeah.
needs some minor changes to like formatting and stuff. But no, this is largely on the money, I think.
Hell yeah. All right.
That's
Well, then I
that
think we
money
have
right there.
I think we have Adam's first two next, where he introduces his idea, and I divided them up.
Oh God.
Okay. So these are elemental visages. Visages are elementals that have been bound to a metal mask, which comprises the only solid part of their bodies. The rest of the visage's form is a swirling, pulsing mass of the relevant element: earth for iron, fire for brass, water for steel, and air for pewter. And on this page, we've got the iron and brass visages. So these are the earth and fire versions of these elementals. They're all large, they're all neutral. Their ACs vary slightly. The earth elemental has the highest, and I think the fire elemental has the lowest AC. Their speeds vary. The earth elemental has a burrow speed. The fire elemental is faster. They've got basically the same resistances. Bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical. They're all immune to poison. The fire elemental is immune to fire, as you might expect. They've got all of the standard condition immunities. So exhaustion, grapple, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, restrained, unconscious. Their senses, I believe they've all got 60 feet of dark vision and a passive perception of 10. I meant to give the earth elemental a 60-foot tremor sense as well, which is pretty standard for earth elementals. And they each only speak their associated dialect of primordial. So Terran and Ignan for these two. They all have a form of elemental demise. I'll read from the brass visage here. If the visage dies, its body disintegrates into a flash of fire and a puff of smoke, leaving behind only its mask. This is basically cribbed from how genies die, where they just turn into like a puff of the element and then drop all of their equipment. These don't have any equipment except for their mask, so they just drop their mask. They've all got a few abilities that their associated elementals can have. So the earth elemental has earth glide, so it can just move through unworked earth and stone. The fire elemental has fire form, illumination, and water susceptibility. I did tune down fire form a bit to D6 damage instead of D10 because these are all CR3. These are low CR elementals because I wanted to give some more options for low CR elementals that aren't just mephits. They also, all of them, all four, have amorphous form because they're supposed to be sort of like this swirling mass of like primordial energy, not a solid figure. So I wanted them to be sort of this like loose conglomeration that forms behind a single mask. So it's like just a face floating in a mass of power. And then they all have a multi-attack for slam, and most of them have a recharge ability that they can replace their regular multi-attack with. The fire elemental doesn't have it just because of fire form, so it's dealing a little bit more damage per turn anyways, so I didn't give it the recharge ability. But the earth elemental has thunderous strike, which I cribbed from the earth myrmidon, so it can make one attack, which would deal a little bit of extra thunder damage, and the target has to make a DC 14 strength save or else be knocked prone. And that's these two. That's these two.
Well, might as well just go over the other two as well.
Sure.
I think I
Yeah.
would take
So
one.
here we've got the steel and pewter visages for water and air. The water one has a swim speed. The air one has a fly speed. The water one adds acid resistance. The air adds lightning and thunder resistance. The water one has the freeze tag from the water elemental, so if it takes cold damage, its speed is reduced. And these two both can actually occupy the same space as another creature. And they also have recharges similar to the earth elemental. The air elementals is most similar. It gets one attack that deals some extra damage, and you get a save or else you're stunned. The water elementals actually, they still get to do their full multi-attack, but the attacks deal an extra d8 cold damage and reduce speed on a hit. So that's these four. I can't take credit for honestly any of the individual ideas in these, because these were all just cribbed from different existing elementals. But I wanted to recombine them into something that had just a slightly lower CR, but still had some like cool abilities to pull off.
I really like the design of them from like just thinking about like the way their forms look.
Thanks.
I love the mask
honestly.
thing.
The thing that I was thinking of was just like an ooze with a floating like mask in its body, and then I was like, oh wait, but make it elemental. And then, so that's how I got to all four of these. I think the Iron Visage, the Earth Elemental one, I think is the weakest conceptually, just because Earth is by like its very definition elementally like solid, and so like the Earth one having amorphous form feels kind of weird to me, because like normally for an earth elemental to be amorphous, it would have to be like a mud elemental, which is a para elemental plane, which is actually part of my problem. Like the reason why I came up with these like an hour before the podcast is because I spent all day today and yesterday like thinking about and reading about the para elemental and quasi elemental planes, and I just didn't fucking get anywhere like reading about those. I just had no ideas. I was like, oh man, that's cool, but I don't have any ideas. And so this is what I came up with. I came up with just bog standard, your four regular elements, but just a new cycle of them at low CR.
I
like the idea of these for like a crafting village or like a crafting area full of people that have made these masks that they've imbued with.
Right. Yeah. Actually, so the first thought I had of these was the brass visage, the fire one, as something that the Azer might make. Because as you'll notice, I didn't bring an Azer today, which just feels really wrong. But it's because I was kind of thinking of the brass visage as something that might be in like an Azer encampment. It's like, oh yeah, they make themselves out of brass. And so like this brass visage might be like maybe like a failed attempt at creating another Azer, or it might be considered like sort of a halfway point in the like reproduction process for Azers. I don't know. I just love the Azer. They're so cool.
We need to count, for how many weeks Adam brings up Azer.
They're so cool. I don't spend as much time as I would like on the elemental planes, and so like a lot of these cool elementals from the books, it's just like, yep, I'm never gonna see that. It's like, how fucking often are you going to the elemental plane of fire? Especially in like a low level campaign.
Do you want to know why? Because these planes will fucking kill you.
Well, and that's the problem. It's like, oh, we've got all these cool CR2 monsters for the elemental plane of fire. But then by the time you're a party that can survive the elemental plane of fire, CR2 creatures mean nothing to you. And so it's like, well, what's the point then? I don't know. What I'm saying is I really want a Planescape book for 5e so that we can have plane hopping adventures at low levels. Please, Wizards, give me Sigil.
Well, you're excited for our next campaign where I have you introduce Azer to you guys at low levels in their plot by someone who's commanding them to summon a phoenix. And at the very end of the campaign, you get to fight a giant phoenix that's raising the lands.
I'm out.
I will say, I think you're right. The Earth Elemental feels the weirdest in this.
Yeah, it feels weird for an Earth Elemental to be like sort of
swirling
around,
pulsing mass.
Yeah. The Earth
I could
Elemental
see it
one,
as like if it's made out of like a bunch of small rocks that are like formed, like.
But even that sort of feels like it's sort of infringing on like the intersection of Earth and air.
Yeah, I suppose so. I was thinking of it like magnetics, almost, which makes sense for iron.
Yeah.
What is pewter, by the way?
It's
Pewter?
the badge you get for beating Brock.
Yeah. Also, it's a metal. It's an alloy that a lot of older dishes are made out of. So like nice metal dishes might be pewter. It's still reasonably common for like mugs. You might have like a heavy pewter mug. I think it's tin and copper. I want to say
Checks out.
Tin
to
and
me.
copper is bronze. I'm pretty sure.
tin and copper is bronze. And what is pewter? Pewter is
I thought
85 to
bronze was-
95% tin, with the remainder consisting of copper, antimony, bismuth, and sometimes, less commonly today, lead.
Are you sure that?
That's your guys' fact of the day today.
Are you sure that brass isn't?
I thought he said
Iron and copper?
bronze, not brass.
Yeah, I said bronze, Justin.
Oh,
Yeah, bronze is mostly copper, and then second mostly tin, and then often a few other things like aluminum, nickel, or zinc.
Oh.
Yeah, bronze and brass are distinct.
Yeah, I unfortunately
Apparently-
don't have much to say about these. I think they're really good and cool.
Thank you.
I think they're well put together from the parts that you've gotten them from, for sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I spent a lot of time just like comparing and contrasting. It's like, okay, well, what do the Earth Elementals have, and what does the Earth Myrmidon have, and then, well, what do the Mephits do? And I was like, oh wait, I forgot about genies. Genies are elementals. So yeah, that's the thing. I picked and chose a bunch of different features, and I would like to point out, I picked and chose features from elementals from between CRs 5 and 11, and then scaled them down to level 3.
Yeah.
So
not bad. Not
Yeah,
bad. Good job.
I like this thought of elementals more than the elementals in the book, even.
thank you.
Or at least in a different way you can introduce these, which
Yeah.
I think is cool.
Well, I say I loved the Myrmidons from were those in Modern Canaans?
I think they were in Volos.
Volos. Anyways, the Myrmidons are elementals who have been bound to like a suit of armor. And so it's like this
Yeah.
is sort of like a lesser version of that. And I was like, oh man, the Myrmidons are just so cool to me.
I do like the idea of like Wizard's Tower, and you see these like masks hanging from the wall. They turn out to be these like air elementals that you couldn't see before.
Yes. Oh man, that would be so fucking cool.
Yeah.
I think the brass visage probably shouldn't have 102 hit points. I don't know if that was said when I was gone.
So the reason that it has more hit points than everybody else is because its defensive CR is kind of trash, and so it kind of needed to be a sack of hit points to make up for it.
Well, you might want to change those hit dice because 60-10 plus 18 can't equal 102.
I mean, it's true.
Why the
Or is it a
fuck?
lie?
Wait. How the fuck did I get that? Wait, scroll back down to the steel visage.
There's no HP on the pewter visage.
Yeah, Shawn copied these before I was done with them.
I recopied these I want to say like 10 minutes before the podcast.
Yeah, I think that I didn't actually save the document after I finished it.
Okay.
So wait, 5d10.
I was wondering
plus-
because you still had
Wait.
CRXYXP.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're all CR3 versus with 700 XP.
Mm.
Yeah, what the fuck is going on with these numbers? I must have just copy pasted these wrong. I think that the numbers in parentheses are correct, and like the hit point, like the flat number is given wrong. So like the dice should be correct here, but I think the numbers are wrong for the brass and steel visages.
I think it'll be wrong for the pewter one too. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, just
Well, yeah, since there aren't any numbers there. The pewter one I think came out to like just a touch less than the steel. I think just because it has a lower con than steel. But yeah, that's the thing. The iron was able to have a much lower HP just because it's got the best AC. So yeah, no, the brass one, it does need to have more HP than the others, but not that much more. So
That's a lot for CR3.
we can fix those numbers in post. I don't know what the fuck I did wrong. Because yeah, that's the thing. It's like the maximum possible from those dice should be 78. So like I don't fucking know. I guess it should be like 48 instead of 102. Where the fuck did I get 102 from, though? I have no clue, man. But I'm ready to move on to Justin's if we've
Sure.
still got time.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, then we got Justin's here. We've got the Storm Elemental. Justin, go ahead
Surprise,
and
surprise.
take this away.
Oh boy. When one normally travels to the plane
That's not the
of
voice.
pandemonium,
Yeah,
One
let me do the
normally
voice.
travels to the plane of pandemonium.
Yeah.
The only
Well,
inhabitants are those
you
that have
are.
long since gone insane from the constant winds.
I'm putting in my resignation now. I'm not even giving you a 2-week notice. I'm just gone.
It's not
This
our
is
fault
my
you did the
last
voice
podcast.
wrong.
Yeah, come on, Justin, do the voice. I'll stop.
No.
To
You
my
fucking
surprise,
No.
there appears to be an undiscovered type of elemental somehow being created, despite the plane of air being nearly the complete opposite of the planar wheel. These hulking masses of raw elemental power could be heard from nearly 3 miles away at our base camp. While it's hard to determine if they could cross over into the material plane naturally, it is worth further studying in a more controlled environment. What's even more fascinating is that the Githyanki Knights appeared to have knowledge on it. I couldn't glean much from them.
Yeah, I forgot to
Thanks
to
for doing
kind of
the
maybe
voice,
delete that a
Justin.
little bit. I fucking hate it here.
Yeah,
I hate it here.
Did you guys steal his voice last week too?
No.
I don't think we didn't have any flavor.
Oh, yeah,
this
yeah,
week
we
because
did.
we were doing a workshop.
Well, now we've all stolen your voice.
Why am I here again?
To
Alright.
explain the storm element.
explain
Alright.
the Storm Elemental, dude. Let me just scroll down.
Alright. It's a huge elemental, neutral. It's got an AC of 16, 153 hit points. It's got a 60-foot fly speed from hovering. Pretty basic along most of its stats. It's got an improved dex over most other elementals. Pretty solid strength and con. I made it smarter than most elementals because usually the intelligence of an elemental is lowered because when they are summoned onto the material plane and thus are less intelligent when they're not on their home plane. So I figured this one's a little bit more intelligent if it's ever summoned to the material plane. I gave it proficiency in dexterity and constitution saving throws, resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks, immunity to lightning, thunder, and poison damage, typical condition immunities. I didn't give it dark vision. I should have. It's supposed to have dark vision out to 120 feet. CR 12. The very first thing, Tempest Form. Pretty much its like ability to kind of squeeze through small spaces, but also has the kind of fiery form that the fire elementals have. I did 2d8 because I thought that as a kind of larger elemental and a higher CR that maybe the damage should have scaled. So it can also move on to other creature spaces. Cyclone Pole. If a creature starts its turn within 60 feet of the Storm Elemental, they must make a DC 16 Strength saving throw or be pulled 10 feet towards the Storm Elemental on a failed save. It's got magical its weapon attacks are magical. Electrical Current. The Storm Elemental gains advantage on attack rolls against a creature that is wearing metal armor or wielding metal weapons. It makes 2 slam attacks. Plus 10 to hit. Deals a mixture of bludgeoning, lightning, and thunder damage. Arc Lightning. Once per long rest, the Storm Elemental chooses one creature within 120 feet and forces them to make a DC 16 Dexterity saving throw. The lightning can arc up to 30 feet to 2 additional creatures. If any of the creatures fails the saving throw, then all the creatures fail the save as well and take 68 lightning damage, or no damage on a successful saving throw. A creature wearing metal armor has disadvantage on the saving throw. Thunderous Roar. The Storm Elemental releases a booming wave of cyclonic energy, forcing all creatures within 30 feet to make a DC 16 Constitution saving throw, or take 8d8 thunder damage, and are deafened for 1 minute, or half as much on a success. That should also say, and not deafened on a save. At the end of its turns, a creature can make another Constitution saving throw, ending the effect on a success.
Nice.
I can see why this ended up as a CR12.
Yeah.
You have so much damage loaded into this thing.
I also feel as its defensive CR is a little bit inflated because lightning and thunder damage aren't typically common damage types that players do. But nevertheless, it still had a pretty decent.
I mean, it's still got 3 immunities, and even with uncommon damage types, 3 immunities and non-magical DPS. Like, I think that the defensive CR might not actually be inflated. I think that's probably appropriate.
Yeah. No, plus with the armor class and the hit points you've given it, it's a beefy fucking chunkin' boy.
Yeah.
I will say I think Tempest form should be separated into 3 things. It seems like there's a lot going on with just one thing.
It's actually almost exactly the text of Fire Form from the Fire
Really?
Elemental, which
Yeah.
also does all 3 of these things.
Okay. Well, then it's fine. It just seemed like there was like 3 different effects that could have been sectioned into.
Yeah, it does feel kind of jam-packed. I agree, but that's how Wizards did it on the Fire Elemental, so clearly they're all right with it.
I love Cyclone Pull though for this creature and the way you have it working with everything.
I do like that sort of like passive crowd control type stuff. That's
What
nice.
I would say about Cyclone Pole is for how little it does, I feel like maybe it shouldn't even be a save. I'll be honest.
I originally thought about doing that, but I wasn't certain how I would feel if it was just like, oh, automatically you're pulled 10 feet to it.
Another thing that you could do is instead of pulling creatures to it, make them have to spend extra movement to move away from it. So if a creature wants to move away, it has to spend like 4 feet of movement to move away.
Yeah, like if they're moving away, it's considered difficult terrain or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew I forgot something because I did think about that. But last night when I was creating this, I just completely forgot about that because I wanted it to be that if a creature's moving, they have to use twice their normal speed to move away from it. But
I think that might be better than the way that Cyclone Pull is now.
Well, I meant adding on top of it.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying just doing that instead of the Cyclone Pull. Because the saving every turn thing, like Shawn was saying.
Why not both?
I think that if you're gonna have it be a no save thing, maybe make it only 5 feet, but also add the like double speed or half speed to move away from it.
That's fair.
I would also another reason why I would have preferred no save is because making it a save on every creature's turn instead of just a save on its turn, like have them all make their save at once, could slow things down. But I mean,
but on the other hand, if you just moved this to at the start of the Elemental's turn, everybody makes a save or gets pulled in 10 feet. Like
yeah.
And then add the walking away.
I like it pulling people in though.
That's the thing. I do like it pulling people in, but I think that if you want to keep it as a save, you should move it to the Elemental's turn and maybe make it even more pull, maybe 15 feet.
Yeah.
But if you want it to be no save, or if you really want it to stay on the creature's individual turns, I say creature starts its turn, no save, 5 feet. That's my gut, at least.
Okay.
10 feet's probably not backbreaking, but I feel like if it's going to be no save, maybe 5.
It's a little weird because like 5 feet feels almost negligible for it. 15.
But I mean, it's got a 15-foot reach, and so like if your players are trying to stay out of its reach, 20 to 15, it gets pulled in. Like,
yeah, that's fair. I think move it to the move it to the Storm Elemental's turn, and then make all creatures within 60 feet of it make the strength save or get pulled 15 feet. I think that's a better.
I like that one.
I think it's a better way for it.
Sure. Yeah. No, I like that. I'm not sure if I like the thing that you did with Arc Lightning, where it's fair save.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about it.
I like the idea of it, where it's like if you think about a lightning bolt, if the lightning bolt finds grounding and you're in the stream, that lightning bolt's not gonna give a fuck that you're there. It just works.
Yeah. But I get what he's going for, and it's cool, but I'm not sure if I like it. You know?
Yeah.
I fully understand. It's
It's definitely I I don't want to say it's like throwing out some of the like 5e design principles, but it's like pushing the envelope. It's like definitely like, well, what if we did this instead? And it's like, I don't know about that. But I like that you tried it.
Yeah.
Like, it's making
If you
me
want
think.
to do something like this, an interesting thing you could do is have it hit all the creatures and just do additional damage if for how many people fail it. So it has a base of like 4d8, but for
and
each
then an
person who
additional
fails it, it
D8
increases it by like 2d8
Oh,
or 1d8 or
That's
something.
really cool. I like that. The
Ooh.
scaling based on how many people
That-
fail it.
I like that. I also like that. This is also like a save or suck thing too from the other side, because I was just like, well, how bad would it feel if you're the rogue
And have evasion, which is
and
why I'm
you-
suggesting this, because if you have evasion, you're still unaffected if you succeed, even if somebody else fails.
Right. Well,
Whereas the
but
way
this
it
is
currently
already.
is.
I also think that if you change it to that, you should change it to save for half instead of save for none.
save for
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
But I came into this, I was just like, I want to have a somewhat more unique way for like lightning to like affect other creatures,
Yeah.
because like chain lightning is like the only thing that is relatively close to
And-
this.
And chain lightning's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. And I was like, what
Like
if
I
it-
say this as somebody who has a lightning themed character. Chain lightning's kind of boring.
You don't even have chain lightning.
I don't have chain lightning because I'm like, you know what I'd rather do is like reskin other elemental spells as doing lightning damage.
You know, it's a spell I give a lot of shit, but I think I kind of like now. Call lightning. I think call lightning's actually kind of cool.
Call lightning is another one that I like. I underestimated that when I was first reading the PHB for 5e, but like the longer I sit with 5e and think about call lightning, I kind of love it, you know?
It's pretty dope.
So do you think do you guys think that the like multitude of different damage on the multi attacks, do you think that's fine?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's cool.
I think
I
it's a
mean-
lot of damage because you have the 2d8 and then 2 1d8s. It's just a lot of damage.
But it's only 2 attacks a turn.
Yeah,
And also this thing is CR12.
Yeah,
Because of all
when
the
I-
other damage that's doing to everywhere else.
when I
Yeah.
first like finished this and then punched into the CR calculator, it was like CR 16, and I was like, I'm not looking for that. I am not looking for that extreme. I want it to be a little bit lower. I was like,
If you want to pull the damage back a little, maybe downgrade those dice to D6s. You're still getting to do a lot of different damage types, but just pull back a little bit on the damage. That takes you down 4 per attack.
the damage is I scaled it. I scaled down from 5d8 to 4d8s. I gave it originally 3 slam attacks.
Okay.
It did 8d8 on arc lightning and 10d8 on thunderous roar. So I scaled back some of the damage. If honestly, I think I went into this also thinking that like the way that kind of aura, like passive aura damages work, I feel like that should be something that maybe scales. But I could also just change all those back to like 1d10 damage at the start of like, or whenever those are effects occur.
Oh, right. You upgraded the fire form damage. Ooh.
It's a lot
mean,
of
that's-
damage.
That's a lot of damage.
It is. My question is, why are these actions once per long rest instead of recharging?
Arc lightning alone, if you miss it here, kind of lowers the CR. Like, if this fails, that's a lot of your damage gone, and you don't even get to do it again.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
But also, I'm just
But if it
wondering from like a
hits-
design standpoint why you decided to do that. Because it's very rare that monsters have like a standalone action that's once per long rest. It's usually the spells that
noticed
come
that.
back.
I noticed that.
But he said, "Fuck that!" And he
well,
put
I
this
think-
in there.
I
I
did
definitely
Thunderous
I
Roar,
definitely agree not letting it happen each turn because that would be destructive. But I don't know why the long rest instead of a recharge.
my original concern with Arc Lightning is that it is more than likely that the 3 character that not all 3 of the characters will make the saving throw. And
I
so
think-
I don't
I see.
Yeah, but I think that if you're making the change to the damage scaling based on the number of failures,
Yeah.
instead of it being save or suck, but all three of you have to make it, I think that if you make that change, Arc Lightning being on recharge would be totally fine. And
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
I think Thunderous Roar could probably be fine on recharge. Like, maybe do Arc Lightning on a 5-6 recharge and Thunderous Roar on a 6.
You are gonna have to adjust damage for Thunderous Lightning, I think, recharging.
Well, no, because the way that the recharge, if it's a recharge on 6, it's very unlikely to do it again in the same combat. Because the way that CR is calculated in 5e is average damage over 3 turns. So if your recharge is anything, if it's a 5 or 6 or a 6, then you effectively can only use it once in those 3 turns, is what you assume.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it makes the combat more interesting if it goes long, but it doesn't actually affect the CR by official calculations.
Also, it doesn't do that much damage. I mean, it does the same amount of damage essentially at Arc Lightning in its current form does more damage like on average because of the fail thing. And then Deafened does nothing in the game. It doesn't really do anything at all.
No, but I figured, but I like the idea thematically of you are fighting this creature and then it
No, I
essentially
agree.
just bombards you and now you can't hear shit.
No, I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. It's just weird to me that Deafened does like nothing. It doesn't even give you like disadvantage on something or anything. It just does nothing. You're just deaf for a minute
Yeah.
or for however
Well,
long.
also, it works against the creature because you are immune to thunder damage when you are deaf.
Oh, God, I forgot about that. Yeah.
No, I think you have that wrong. Some abilities say that if a creature is deafened, it doesn't affect it, but you're not innately immune to thunder damage if you're deaf. That is not part of the condition.
I am.
I want
Oh,
to make my next character deaf. Be immune to thunder damage?
Oh wait, it's at the end of the spells.
Deafen just says that you can't hear things. It does not make you immune to thunder damage.
Oh,
the spell Silence makes you immune to thunder damage.
Yeah, that does. And some thunder effects say that if you're deafened, you aren't affected because they do specific things. But I'm not even sure if one of those exists. But I think there might be like one that's like thunder damage, but nothing if you're deaf. Or like you automatically make the save if you're deaf or something.
well, I was wrong with that assumption, and now I look like a fool.
There are some effects in the game where creatures have to be able to see and hear you, so you can't use it on them if they're deaf, but
Yeah.
those aren't super common. It's usually they just got to see you, or not even either. They can just be within range.
Yeah.
But I like this.
Oh.
I think it's a good storm elemental.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, this is sweet.
Actually, you know what? I want to check something.
While Sean's checking that, I figured out what I did wrong with the HP of my my Visages. The calculator that I'm using has an HP field, but it also has an effective HP field. And I don't know what the fuck it's doing, but its effective HP is always just double its actual HP, and I don't know why.
That's probably because of the resistances. If you have multiple kind of resistances, it doubles the effective HP for the CR calculation.
Okay. Then yeah, so that's what it is. Since they all have resistances and immunities, it's doubling their effective HP. So
yeah. So I looked up the Elder Tempest because Elder Tempest is essentially a storm elemental.
Oh yeah,
And I think
well,
the
I
Elder
didn't
Tempest
know
has
that
some
thing.
cool stuff going for it. It has some interesting area effects. It's got an interesting legendary action, which I kind of like. But I think, all in all, I think I like the storm elemental a little bit more. I like the Cyclone Pool. I like the way Arc Lightning works, at least the way that we discussed it can work. And yeah, I think honestly the storm elemental is kind of cooler. It has the same damage immunities that you gave it, which makes sense,
Nice.
and resistances.
Damn. Boy, am I a fool. I wish I would have looked this up. I would have probably gotten better ideas instead of just kind of thinking like I kind of was just like, all right, I want to essentially take something from like a few different elementals. I want to take like the fire form, like area of effect, like then getting hit damage. I want to take the fact that it can kind of like fly from the air elementals.
I think monsters having effect on the area in some unique ways also very fun. And I think something that's not touched upon enough in 5e. That's why I
Yeah.
like Cyclone Pool so much because of that. I love being
Yeah.
able to like just affect the battleground in some passive way, or not even necessarily passive, just in a way that like is actually long lasting. Like if a creature had the ability to like, I don't know, destroy the earth around it so it becomes difficult terrain, like that's already more interesting than a lot of other creature abilities that are just
Yeah.
do more damage to more creatures. Which is part of the reason why I wanted to give the Phoenix the ability just to innately catch things on fire, because that's not really part of their ability, and also why I think the Storm Sorceress or the Storm Elemental's cool, and why I think the Time Elemental's cool, even though it's not really part of its actual design. Well, no, the 40-foot thing is part of its design, but I was thinking of the see different creatures from your past and or future thing was also really cool.
So, kind of speaking on that for just a second, I know I've gotten off track here, but if we change the slowed reality to no save and just while you were within 40 feet, you were under slow, think that's too strong?
That's strong. That is strong.
That's very strong. Well, and the thing is, the people who it's going to affect the most are the people who have the best chance of making the save. Because, like, the people who need to get in close are going to be, like, your fighters and your barbarians, and they've got good con saves. So, like, by making it no save, you're taking it from,
it's
well,
a
the
wisdom
people...
It's a wisdom save.
Oh, it's a wisdom save? Fuck, I thought it was a con save. Never
Slow
mind.
spell is
I
also
take that back.
wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that you had that written as a con save. I don't know why I thought that. Ignore me. None of what I was just about to say matters. But I think that'd be pretty brutal.
I also had a hard time trying to figure out, like what like how many like dice I should use for the slam attack. And I was like, I'm gonna look up other huge creatures and see what they do. And I looked up the fire giant. I'm like, CR9. This is kind of close to what I want. And then I just look at it, how much damage its greatsword does. Fucking 28 on average. Like, it's doing more on average than the elemental. I was like, what
On a
the
single
fuck?
hit,
This is
but
a
how many
lot of
attacks does
damage.
it make?
2.
Okay.
But I mean, that's fair. Like, I was looking at it, I'm like, Jesus fuck, this thing is like, it's like a good like kind of similar thing, except it's fucking it's just really good at single target.
But does the fire
as
giant
opposed-
have any arc lightning?
It doesn't.
Or a passive tempest form that's doing damage to things?
It does
That's
not.
true. I you know what? I feel like we say this every week, but I like what everybody brought today.
Yeah, no, I feel like this was a pretty successful week.
I can't wait for the day
I
where I
like
can say I
everything
hate.
except the steel visage. Or not the steel, the iron.
The
visage.
Iron Visage. Yeah, I think the Iron Visage was the weakest of the 8 things we saw today.
I don't know. I think the time elemental. No. Just,
No,
Teach
but
their own.
I could see an elemental plane jumping campaign with all these creatures. I'm glad we didn't double dip once again with no communication.
Yeah, that's the thing. We didn't tell each other what we were working on. I mean, most of us just because we were still working on it right up until the podcast. But we did not double dip.
that's why I was asking over the weekend. I was like, "Hey, how's everyone's thoughts going on it so far? I've got like a storm elemental. Like, what's
And
up, guys?"
I was pointedly ignoring you because I hadn't thought of shit. Also, I was on vacation, so fuck
what
you.
I ended up bringing was not what I was thinking about all weekend.
I don't know what day you asked that, but I didn't find out what we were doing until yesterday.
I asked it over the weekend.
So I didn't know until yesterday.
I really need to start working on these on a day that isn't the day that we do the podcast.
Yeah, same. But I've got some tough classes right now, and like I also have a full-time job, so I'm like, you know what? I don't really have the time until like Wednesday afternoon.
My life's tough too.
You know something's wrong when I'm the one that's getting the project done ahead of time. What the fuck, guys? I'm supposed to be the one cramming at the last minute.
Right?
Hey,
You said earlier.
That,
You said earlier that you're the least busy out of all of us. So like,
Hey,
of course you're the one who gets it done.
Yeah, I'm definitely the least busy. I don't even have a job. I have excelled at doing just enough of what I need to at just the right amount of time my entire life. So
yeah,
no reason
much.
for me to change now.
Right. Until it crashes and burns terribly, why would you ever change?
Yo, what the fuck? Why does the Elder Tempest, the CR23 monster, only get 2 attacks?
Does a bunch of other shit.
As we said, all 4 of the Elder Elementals kind of got shafted.
That's why, because it can use its Lightning Storm on its legendary action, but it also can make a fucking multi-attack as a legendary action. If this is a correctly cited website.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think you're on the same one as me, and I think that's wrong.
I think the Elder
Yeah, it
Tempest
seems like
is
it's
the
wrong.
best of. I think the Elder Tempest is the best of the 4 of them. But
I agree. I think it is.
I think that honestly, just I don't even remember the Leviathan, but the Zaratan and the Phoenix both were just absolute travesties. Like,
Yeah.
I will never forgive them for what they did to my baby.
Leviathan,
My baby.
Leviathan has one interesting action, and that's it. It has the tidal wave, and everything else is like slam. And it's boring.
Yeah, I will never forgive them for what they did to my baby, the turtle the size of an island.
So what are our plans for next week?
Well,
Did you guys not finalize that while I was working on my young Phoenix?
No, we were just bitching the whole time.
I thought we had decided on the healing thing.
Oh, we can do the healing thing, yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally down for stuff.
Zach,
that
why
affects
don't you
healing.
elaborate specifically what you mean by the healing thing?
So any kind of in the same vein as the way that Adam did affecting weapons, I was thinking anything that is related to healing, like creating a spell, an item, and affect a creature, anything that you wanted that affected healing, either good or bad, like reducing healing or increasing.
So something that buffs or nerfs healing in some way, or like
Mhm.
a creature or feature that is in some way like intrinsically tied to healing.
Yes.
I'm going to add a caveat to this. Nothing that grants temporary hit points.
Yes.
No
not
temp HP.
temporary
Not
hit
temp
points.
HP.
This is
Strictly
not temp
healing.
HP.
Strictly healing.
Yes.
So you want specifically healing hit points and not like, restorative abilities or anything like that.
Correct. That's what I have a thought on it. But if you guys wanted to do restoring, I hadn't thought of that.
I personally think that it's more interesting to focus on the hit points, but
Okay.
I think that like restorative effects on top of hit points wouldn't be out of line. But like that's the thing. Like I don't think you should bring like a medium restoration spell that's like better than lesser but worse than greater. Like, but if you brought a spell.
To be fair, lesser and greater are on 2 different axes. They are not greater is not better than lesser necessarily because they affect different conditions.
They just do completely different things, which I fucking hate.
Yeah.
But
Greater's just better.
But if you brought a spell that was like, I don't know, lesser restoration plus a D8 of hit points, that'd be a bad spell, but like it would fulfill the criteria.
Thanks for coming up with my idea for me, Adam.
Well, I already said it's a bad spell, so you'd better not bring it.
Too late.
We need to have a week where someone brings something that we shit on the whole time.
Right, yeah. And it would be perfectly fair for it to be Justin.
All right, yep.
Okay.
So let's put that in the episode theme, guy. Like the ideas.
Make terrible things.
No.
Honestly, I think
that would be kind of fun.
You know what? That would be fun for like an April Fool's Day episode. Like, bring us your worst possible design.
Oh, you know what we should do? Sometime we should review D&D Wiki stuff.
Oh my god!
We should all bring like a subclass or something, or like a class to review.
I personally would not want to do that just because I feel like it would be mean-spirited to review like someone else's content in that way. But I would totally be up for we design something that we think is hilariously bad.
What if we do the opposite? We all find something on D&D we actually like and talk about it, or like we'd say, if we change this and this, maybe we'd be okay with this or something like that.
I would need to think more on the idea, but I'm not as intrinsically opposed to it as the first one.
I do like the idea of all of us bringing something that we all think is garbage. Like we all make something that's garbage.
Yeah, that would be very fun, I think.
Can I just bring? I'm just gonna bring Orion's sword from Zach's first campaign.
The thing is,
that wasn't garbage. We talked about that.
We talked about that on the episode, and we were like, actually, you know what? This like reads very powerful, but like it's probably fine, especially as a legendary item. Like,
I
if you
know.
respect the rarity, it's fine.
I was just saying that just to shit on Zach.
Well, I'm not going to allow that kind of attitude in this house.
Yeah,
I
we're
know
only
that you
allowed to
are-
shit on you.
Yeah.
All right.
Listen, I'm gonna have a hard time bringing something terrible to the table.
Oh, goodness.
Just ask Justin for some ideas.
Yeah, I'm full of terrible ideas. Honestly, we should just change the whole thing to just Justin bringing like 6 terrible things.
Honestly,
Sure.
it will be kind of hard to bring something that is like bad in a funny or interesting way.
True.
'Cause, like,
Oh,
sure,
no.
it's easy to design something that's bad in terms of like, oh, like the balance is way off, and like you're referencing abilities that don't exist or like can't be translated to 5e. But like making something that's bad in an interesting way is actually a very, very interesting challenge, I think.
It is. It would be hard. We'd have to be willing to really go hard on the podcast about each thing.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
All right. Well then,
So,
yeah. Next
healing
week,
for next week.
yeah. Next week is something to do with healing.
Something
Primarily
that affects
healing.
you.
Something
Doesn't
that
have to
affects
be
healing.
increasing. Can be reducing.
Yeah. Preferably something that isn't just healing.
Right.
Maybe
That's it. I think it would.
like maybe like an ability where it's like when you get healed you get this or something, like not
Right.
necessarily healing itself.
Ooh, I got a great one out. I got a great spell already.
Perfect. Any last words for everybody before we go?
So the word of the day is anneal, which is something that you do in metalworking, where you like heat something up and keep it at that temperature for a while, and then like let it cool down slowly, so that you can change its properties, either hardening or softening the metal. You hold it at a certain temperature to get the properties that you want out of it. That's called annealing, and that's the word of the day today.
I bet
Nice.
Azers use that a lot.
Oh, I bet they fucking do. They anneal their cocks.
Drink water is what I was
asexual.
going to say.
They reproduce asexually.
Hey,
They
doesn't
still
mean,
want really hard cocks, though.
doesn't mean they don't have cocks. Like,
Just drink water, guys. Like, make sure you're staying hydrated and healthy. Just because it's getting colder outside in the northern hemisphere, especially if you're in the southern hemisphere, you know it's getting warmer. Drink plenty of water.
I say drink less water. Drink more Mountain Dew, guys.
I say always have hard cocks.
There's only so
Great
much
advice, Zach.
ocean. Drink pop to save the ocean.
It's an environmentalist concern. Drink
That-
more soda to save
God.
the oceans.
That is right up there with wind is a finite resource, and I hate it.
Oh, goodness. All right, bye, everybody.
Why?
Well, you know what they say, right, guys? They say the thing.
They say that thing that we say every week.
Yeah, you know what they say. They say,
You know.
what's lost
You
must
know.
be found, and what's found must be remembered. I almost said forgotten. All right.